So you just bought that home to flip or rent, and all the dollar signs are going through your head right now on how much money you're going to make. And while you're doing the work yourself, this guy shows up, you get a stop work order. Today, I'm going to cover doing it yourself as opposed to hiring professionals. And you're going to want to stay tuned for later in the video, and I will cover this stop work order and how it affected one of my renovations. So anyway, let's get right to it. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to show you my rescue dog, Daisy, as we support all the rescue dog organizations around the Denver area. Now let's get back to the video. Now we have all heard or experienced those nightmare stories of doing the home renovations. A lot of the newer investors especially look at the home to renovate, and due to their lack of experience, they think they can do a lot of the work on their own. I was that person once, and in fact, most beginners see a home renovation just as a paint, carpet, and then just blow it out onto the open market. But later, they find out that it was a lot more than that. And I'm sure a lot of you have some stories of your home renovations that you started out with, or even you're doing currently. And please let me know down below your experiences on those. Now, in doing renovations, especially as a new investor, a lot of people will go the route of buying cheap materials, even if the property is going to be a rental property. Now, trust me, we all want to save money and make the most we can, but this will cost you so much more money in the long run. And right now, in this current market that we're in, it will really cost you because the buyers are way more pickier than they were in the days of the hot market. Now, going cheap on things like light fixtures, you may feel is a good way to go and buy those cheap booby lights. They're going to get you such a great return, but later you find out you should have just spent the extra money for some good LED light. And another thing that's a huge pet peeve of mine is doing all new trim, paint, full update of the home, and you don't spend a little extra amount to change those plugs and switches, and you opt to use the original ones in the home, giving it just that one little cheap look, and it will cost you in the end, trust me. Now, going cheap on a rental property on things like flooring, and after you replace that flooring 3-4 times in a short period of time, you will appreciate the fact that you had stepped up just a little bit more on some of the better quality flooring that will last and will save you in the long run. Nowadays, there is some great vinyl flooring, which isn't terribly expensive, and that will also help you not having to replace that flooring as much either. Another renovation mistake that do-it-yourselfers do, especially when you're first starting out, is not fixing everything that should be because you just don't have the ability to do so. Now, if you're flipping a home and let's say it has, for example, aluminum wiring or an outdated electrical panel, or maybe both, these are items that you definitely want to upgrade and not just leave alone because they still work. These outlets will need to be grounded, and if you have that good old Federal Pacific electric panel, then it's going to need to be upgraded as well, as inspectors will call these out every time. And not only will these items need to be updated or grounded for the new home buyer, you are also going to put some serious doubt into the new buyer's head that you cut corners on something as important as an electrical item, and they're going to think,
what else did you not do that should have been done?
And they're going to have big reservations on buying that home. Now, if you did your renovations on your home to rent, the last thing you want to do is not focus on fixing things like electrical and plumbing. And again, just because it works doesn't mean that it's okay, because one night, and I'll just say one late night, you're going to get that phone call from your tenant that a pipe broke, or even worse, you might have had that electrical fire. So get a qualified electrician or plumber out if you're not able to do the work or have the background to fix those items, as it will cost you a lot more later, and it is well worth it in the end, trust me. Now, another mistake made by the do-it-yourselfers or newer investors, trying to estimate the cost of the renovation. Yes, I hear it a lot from the people that I deal with here in the Colorado area that this property will only be a $30,000 cosmetic remodel. I can tell you it has been years, and I stress years, since I've only spent $30,000 on a home renovation. Now keep in mind, whatever your budget is, always add 10 to 20% to it, maybe even more, just to make sure that you hedge yourself, as I can guarantee you, you will always go above what you have estimated. And factoring in things like having to pull permits, if that is not in your expenses and you're doing it yourself, and you didn't budget for repairs, and especially if no permits were factored into those, it is going to get real expensive. Now that stop work order that I had talked about earlier, well, I'm going to get into that story of how I did not pull a permit early on, and this is how it happened. We were opening a wall on a home that we decided needed to be taken out just to open up the kitchen to the living room, and while we were gone one day, the city inspector showed up of all things. He looked in the window while we weren't there, and he noticed the studs and immediately hit this stop work order on our window and shut us down. Now let's think about this for just a minute. If you're starting out like we were, and this is your first project that you're trying to get under your belt, imagine the city shutting you down with a stop work order and you have no idea what you're going to do next. Well, we went down to the city, we applied for the permits that were needed to have, and just for the fact that we tried to do all this without permits in their eyes, and not that it was just a lack of not knowing, the process slowed way down, and I mean way down, and waiting for them to give us approvals cost us way more money in the end. One, for having to do things special for those permits, and then also the extra time of carrying that home while we worked out those issues with no permit. So the lesson learned here was budget accordingly and know what items you may need permits on when you are doing those renovations yourself. And if you're just starting out and you do not know, you'll need to have another professional bid these items out ahead of time. And of course, hopefully that deal that you have under contract will allow you some of that extra time to do that. But no matter what, you have to have a firm understanding of your costs. Call professionals ahead of time just to get a rough idea of what they charge price per square foot for installation of certain items. Or ask that electrician, what an electrical panel change costs? But have a good understanding, and eventually, you'll be able to walk into a home and know what it is going to take to renovate that home. And I've said this many times to many people, every home has a surprise, and things do come up unexpectedly. Have everything within your budget. It will definitely save you in the long run. Now, if you hire professionals to do certain items, always factor in that important time factor. Contractors can be on their own time, and if they say it's going to be 3 weeks, you better count on 5 just to manage the expectations of the project. And one thing I learned years ago, if you have professionals do the job, you better have a good threshold at being patient. Now, if the professionals you hire request to be paid up front before the job's complete, be careful. I learned in the past that some contractors, they'll take up to 50% up front. Sometimes they want the whole amount, but yet they'll go complete another job they have going for another customer and then show up to your project, let's say weeks later, costing you lots of time on that project. And on the flip side, you will eventually find the right set of professionals that you will want to work with again and again. And you'll be flexible with them, so when you have that next job, they're ready to go, and you'll also know the time expectations on that project. Another thing to consider, if you're not doing it yourself and you hire professionals, you will still need to be there to supervise that project. Yes, the visions of the contractors can be and are usually different than yours. Now, if you go days of not stepping foot on that home renovation project, it may be either in that same state it was the last time you saw it, or maybe they went ahead and textured all the walls and forgot that you wanted that one wall removed in the kitchen to open that home up. So instead of moving forward, you're taking many, many steps back. And also make note, as every day progresses forward, you will always have many, many changes as you move through the renovation project. Now, if you're deciding to do a home renovation, always remember, don't go too cheap on the renovation. Make sure that you fix everything you can and don't just overlook it because it still works. Also, don't underestimate the cost of the renovations. Always consider that important time factor when you're dealing with contractors. And last, trust and always manage the workers that you have at that renovation. Now, these are all important things I have learned the hard way, as I thought I could do it all back in the day. But this stop work order discussed earlier was a great learning lesson, and I took that and made it a positive, which has helped me with my home renovations today. Just give yourself some time to learn these things, and you will be well on your way to a successful real estate investing career. Thank you for watching this video. My contact information is listed below if you'd like to learn more about home renovations or anything else real estate related. And please leave me some of your comments below on all your renovation experiences as well. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. And until next time, get out there and make some deals.